Behind every medicine we take lies a promise of healing, of relief, of trust. But what happens when that promise is broken? When ethics are traded for profit, and safety is sacrificed for success? Today, we uncover the top 10 pharma scandals that shook the world, events that not only tarnished reputations but also impacted lives, laws, and entire industries. Welcome to a story not just about medicine, but about the trust we place in it. The pharmaceutical world has given us wonders, yes, but it's also had its dark chapters. In this video, we'll uncover the top 10 scandals that sent shockwaves across the globe. What were the decisions, the oversights, and the consequences that followed? Let's begin. Before we begin, an important note: we won't name specific companies or individuals. This is not about blaming, it's about learning. Our goal is to raise awareness and promote ethical, responsible practices across the pharmaceutical world. In the 1950s, a new medication was launched to help pregnant women deal with morning sickness. Marketed aggressively, it quickly became a bestseller. But within a few years, thousands of babies were born with severe deformities, underdeveloped limbs, hearing loss, or blindness. Let's go back to the 1950s, a time of medical optimism. A drug came out to help pregnant women deal with morning sickness. It was sold as completely safe, but there was a problem. It hadn't been tested properly for use in pregnancy. Soon, heartbreaking cases of birth defects began emerging: missing limbs, blindness, and organ deformities. This tragedy led to major reforms in how drugs are tested, especially for pregnant women. It taught the world the importance of teratogenic risk, pharmacovigilance, and most of all, informed consent. In a state-of-the-art compounding pharmacy, lapses in sterilization practices led to contaminated injectable products reaching thousands of patients. The result: a deadly outbreak of fungal meningitis. This was a chilling example of how even advanced facilities can fail. A pharmacy making injectable drugs overlooked key sterility protocols. The result? Contaminated injections caused fungal meningitis outbreaks. Patients died. The crisis highlighted just how critical environmental monitoring, cleanroom validation, and HVAC controls are, especially when producing injectables. This led to regulatory crackdowns on compounding pharmacies and stronger sterility requirements. A blockbuster antidepressant hit the market backed by glowing trial results. What wasn't shared was that multiple trials showed no significant benefit, or worse, increased suicidal thoughts among adolescents. The scandal exposed something deeply dangerous: selective publication. A major antidepressant was backed by only the positive trial results. But hidden in the background were several trials that showed no real benefit, and even increased suicidal tendencies in teens. This led to global calls for trial transparency, mandatory clinical trial registration, and more ethical publishing standards. Data integrity and full disclosure became non-negotiable. A vaccine for a widespread tropical disease was rolled out with claims of high efficacy. However, post-deployment analysis showed it had negligible impact and in some cases worsened symptoms. Vaccines save lives, but when data is overstated, the consequences are severe. In this case, a vaccine was launched with bold efficacy claims. But after rollout, real-world data told a different story. Some patients were even worse off. This exposed the gap between trial data and real-world performance. It reinforced the need for pharmacovigilance, post-marketing surveillance, and honesty in public health communication. Approved for moderate pain, this medication was marketed as safe and non-addictive. Decades later, it was revealed that addiction risks were grossly underestimated and misrepresented, sparking a nationwide opioid crisis. This story is now infamous. A painkiller marketed as safe and non-addictive led to one of the worst drug crises in history. It was heavily promoted, even incentivized. But its addictive potential was downplayed. The outcome? A full-blown opioid epidemic. The scandal reshaped how we assess addiction risks, market controlled substances, and counsel patients. Pain relief should never come at the cost of public health. A life-saving drug used in cancer treatment saw its price increase by over 500% overnight, with no manufacturing changes or innovations. The public backlash was immediate and fierce. Imagine needing a life-saving cancer drug and finding its price has jumped 500% overnight. That's exactly what happened. With no added innovation or cost, the hike was purely profit-driven. This raised global outrage and forced governments to rethink price control strategies. It reminded us all, medicines aren't just products, they are lifelines. And their pricing must reflect that responsibility. A massive network of fake bioequivalence reports, altered data, and fraudulent GMP practices was uncovered in multiple generic drug facilities. Generic drugs are essential, they make treatments affordable. But in this case, multiple facilities were caught faking bioequivalence data. Fake records, doctored test results, even manipulated batch records. This scandal brought major regulatory action. It led to a global conversation about data integrity, Alcoa Plus principles, and the urgent need for transparency in generic manufacturing. Touted as revolutionary for type 2 diabetes, this oral medication was later linked to severe cardiovascular risks, long after it had reached millions of patients. This diabetes drug showed great early promise. But years later, data emerged linking it to severe heart complications. What's worse, the warning signs were present but overlooked. This led to stricter pharmacovigilance requirements and forced pharma to act faster on post-marketing safety data. Patient safety must always outweigh commercial interests. In a developing country, an experimental antibiotic was tested on children without proper ethical oversight. Many suffered adverse effects, and consent procedures were later called into question. Clinical trials must protect the vulnerable, especially children. But in this case, a drug was tested on pediatric patients without proper consent or ethical review. Some children suffered serious complications. This exposed gaps in international trial conduct and led to major reforms in ethics approvals, informed consent, and trial transparency, especially in low-income countries. Prestigious journals published studies praising a chronic illness drug, all supposedly written by independent researchers. Later, it was revealed the articles were ghostwritten by the drug company itself. The scandal shook the world of scientific publishing. Studies supporting a drug were supposedly written by academics, but in reality, ghostwritten by the pharma company. It manipulated doctors, misled patients, and compromised trust. This led to stricter journal disclosures and a renewed push for transparency in authorship and funding. The pharmaceutical industry saves lives, no doubt. But when power, profit, and poor oversight collide, the consequences can be devastating. These scandals remind us that vigilance, transparency, and ethical responsibility are non-negotiable. We've seen how each scandal left a mark, not just on companies, but on patients, systems, and trust. Let these stories not repeat. Whether you are a regulator, a professional, or a consumer, demand transparency, ethics, and accountability. That's the only way forward. If you believe in a safer, more transparent healthcare system, like, share, and subscribe. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Which of these cases surprise you the most? And what lessons should the world never forget? Thank you for watching.